understanding full well the message you're trying to share with everybody. What we hear in hockey is the drill approach, and he broke down. He's very matter of fact in his approach. You have to remove the emotion from it. What is the foundation for the arguments being made against it? When you remove the emotion, remove your own experience as a player from 20, 30, 40 years ago or more, and look at what does the research tell us? What do we know is true? And approaching from that aspect. So that's what I've been trying to do out here, is trying to remove everybody's emotional bias, which is really hard. I played junior, the three most dangerous words in coaching. I played junior. Therefore, yeah, but we know how children acquire skills. We know how children learn, whether they're 8 years old or 18 years old. So why aren't we applying these? Well, because I don't like it. I don't agree with it. Why? What's the foundation of your disagreement? I suggest you look him up. His stuff is fantastic. Really, really good. Something we could definitely do between Tom's stuff and Raymond Verheyen and Rob Gray and Doug Lemov, with all these people providing all this information. Coaching has to take a different turn. It just has to.
Are they real serious coaches going to be the only ones that tap into those things?
The way I look at it, and the way, I mean, I talked about this when I was on the Sharks call back in March, Wally. The president of the association said, if we can get 5 coaches to go, we're doing well. 5 coaches means 85 players. So there will be a bunch who will come in August, including ones who couldn't come to the April presentation. And we'll break it down, and I've already told the president that you're going to have to order breakfast or pizza or something, because we're not going to be there for an hour. You know, we're going to sit down for a good 3 or 4 hours and hash out how you can apply this. And if only 4 coaches do it, you know, you go into that particular facility in Oshawa where I held this, and there's 4 pads in there. People go around and watch what's going on and going, that's the most unusual practice I've ever seen. But the other component that I threw at them was, this is all well and good, but you have to educate the parents on what's going on. You cannot, parents who themselves are blinded by their own history and biases will look at an activity or games-based approach and go, what is it? My kid's not learning how to break out. My kid's not learning how to play a 3-on-2 reverse at the blue line, you know, regroups. They're 10 years old. They should be able to do that. Then we have to educate the parents. That's a major part of the process, or should be anyway, I think.
You talk about parents. I'm doing an HP evaluation at a prep school. It's midget AA caliber players. The coach I'm evaluating is a young assistant who's taken his courses, and he needs his HP high performance certification. And I go on the bench and I'm watching them play. And in their end, they were so spread out with defensively, they had no clue. The puck would be in the corner, and the far winger on the defensive side was on the wall waiting for a breakout. They didn't even have possession. And I tried to point this out to him as sort of being a visible, you know, cardinal kind of thing to teach at this level. And he said to me, well, they should have known that by the time they were in U10. So the pass the buck concept, or, I mean, here you are dealing with a high performance coach who doesn't see the fundamental essence of collapsing and shrinking down.
He doesn't know any better, though.
Yeah.
How would he
So-
know any better? Where would he find that out from?
So given my age and experience, I suggested if he wanted to pass, he better demonstrate some learning during my time there because he was in trouble. And, we went in between periods and I convinced the staff to use the Socrates method, where between periods they would ask themselves, what did we do well? What do we need to do better? Then they would go in the room and ask the kids. And when they asked the kids, what do we need to do better? The captain spoke up. We have to get better at our end. We don't know what the hell we're doing. So, talk about a teachable moment for this young high performance coach.
Right. And better at what, though?
Yeah.
We're having trouble in our own end, but what needs to be better? So what are we doing in practice that leads to this particular problem? What's the technical problem solving that says, all right, we're lousy in our own zone. Okay, I get it. All right, well, that's fine. Good call. But lousy at what? Now I have to figure out how to fix that in practice under a constraints-led environment where, breakouts begin with a puck transition.
Yep.
You got to regain possession, get into position, and away you go.
Would that be surprising to you, Richard, or is that the norm at that HP level?
Oh, it's the norm for all coaches. It's the norm for all coaches. They don't know what they don't know. Like I've immersed myself in this stuff for the last few years, and I can't expect coaches to have the time or inclination to do it because I didn't do it when I first started coaching. So I see myself as sort of the purveyor of news of what's going on in coaching. And I say, guys, I'm like I said in Oshawa, I'm providing you this information. I'm going to provide suggestions on what we can do with that information. You have to filter out what is appropriate for you or your age group based on your skills and experience and see how you can shape it to your needs. I don't expect you to know all this stuff. I don't expect you to read all these theses, and I said theses, not theses. I said, to read all these theses. I don't expect you to read all this stuff and understand it and be able to do something with it. I'll help you with that. Just be open-minded. They don't know.
I've given up, Richard, worrying about what we're talking about is really X's and O's, delivery. And I've found that letting them play games, no interference with too much thinking and teaching, but the ethical management of how you coach. That precedes everything else. So I've given up thinking I can make a difference with coaches like you are using this SEEP approach. But I find I can make suggestions while they're doing practice and give them ideas. My problem is I have too many ideas and I can't shut up.
Well, there's no such thing as too many ideas. Remember, the coaches we are when we started I started coaching in Montreal in 1971. I was a prodigy. I was 4 years old. So we had nothing in 1971. The Hockey Canada Clinic was 30 hours long. That was level 1. It was Monday nights, 3 hours a night for 10 weeks with Dave Draper was the coach at Loyola in Montreal, and he taught the program. That was it. There was nothing else. There were no books. There was no videos. There was nothing. So we are in a position now. We are the leaders of the game, and the likes of us four old farts here, we are in a position to be able to share all these ideas and help the next 2 generations of coaches improve their skills. Like the wealth of knowledge in just the 4 of us who are left on the call is astounding.
Well, we'll keep on, I call it bullshit baffling brain sometimes, but Rick, go ahead.
Well, just to hitchhike on some of the comments here, and Richard's, that where would they know it from? How would they know this stuff?
Right.
And years ago, and I took to the idea of you need to assess your group at the start of the year to determine just what their level of knowledge, level of experience is. Um, I put it on a scale of 1 to 10. You may feel because they're midget AAA, which is the top level I worked at, that they should know pretty much everything when they get there. But a lot of them are still down at the 2 level because of the background they have. They may have high skill, but they don't have high understanding of the game or a high level of ability to interpret and make decisions, to the hockey IQ thing. So and when I'm mentoring coaches now, that's one of the points I'm trying to stress. Figure out what your group knows and don't start in the middle. Start at the bottom. So do they know how to skate? Do they know how to handle a puck? Do they know the mechanics of passing? And I'm serious about getting right down to the nuts and bolts. That may fly in the face of some people, maybe yourself too, Richard, that says we don't need to spend practice time doing this. But in my opinion, I feel I need to know where they're at before I start filling in some of the gaps for them. And I need to find that at the lowest common denominator and build from there. And the process is relatively quick once you give people the fundamentals to work with, that they'll progress and catch up to the rest of the group. Your top end guys probably know more than the guys that haven't had that same level of experience. So
we have done,
and I found that to be quite a useful approach.
I mean, if I'm king of the world here in Canada with Hockey Canada, when I become chairman next year, I'd be looking at hiring the likes of you guys and the other people who are on the call who are in Canada, and saying, all right, we're going to have a think tank here. What do we have to do to improve our coaching? So while your approach, Rick, or Tom's or Wally's might be somewhat different from what I would do, the essence of it is the same. We need to educate our coaches better. We need to inform them better. We need to make them better aware. We need to inform parents better. And we need to have strong leadership. So there has to be a recognition that the people who've been around the game for decades, I mean, look at the number of years of experience, just the 4 of us. We're talking over 200 years of coaching experience-ish.
Mm.
You know, you can't put that out to pasture. I refuse to be put out to pasture. Some people may want to put me out to pasture with the sheep and the goats, but I'm sorry. I feel that I have too much to offer, as you do, and we may differ in a few things, and that's fine. I don't care. That's fine.
Just a story to, when I was in Copenhagen, I'm sitting in the front row at the end, and this guy's presenting, and he just stops and he looks at me and says, "How old are you?" And that was 5 years ago. So next one I go to, it's going to be unbelievable.
How much of it is generational? Like, I feel I can't win. I can't get started because I'm too old.
Bullshit.
No, but it's that credibility with the people you're working with. The gap is almost too great for me.
No, I'm sorry, I disagree 100%. The credibility is in not just in the messaging, but in the experience. Just take one component of what you do, Wally, and look at the mission statement exercise, which should be a compulsory portion of any coaching clinic. Okay, just that alone. And you take all the stuff that we do, like I'm promoting Tom stuff like crazy. I should get a cut of from his website or something if he charged.
I don't get any for it because I can't.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I'm stealing
anyway.
stuff from other people, so I can't charge.
But, the stuff that we do is priceless, and the coaches want it. I show up in Oshawa. I haven't been there in nearly 4 years. 27 coaches showed up, and there could have been 40 had it not been for their pre-tryout skates. They want the information. Coaches, like my friend Rick Ledouceur, I think a couple of you guys know him. He is now the executive director of Prairie Storm Minor Hockey, which is just outside Regina. And he's trying to institute a coach development program there. They've had nothing ever. And they're just astounded at the stuff that he wants to provide them, including the SEEP program, either in Zoom or in person or however he's going to do it. And the people on the board go, this is fantastic. This is great. People want it. It's the leaders of the game in the associations or in Hockey Canada that have to look at the experienced folks across the country and go, we have to use that information. We have to use those brains. Have to. And if they don't want to, I'm going to provide it anyway.
Have you not burnt bridges?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think I've burnt too many bridges.
Oh, yeah. I've burnt lots of bridges, and I have to learn to swim really well to get
That's
across
why
those rivers.
the one thing about people working in those positions is they're really outstanding at communicating at that level with one another. Now, whatever the Peter Principle means applies.
You can't be in the game as long as we have, fellas. I'm sure you would agree. We've been around a long time. And there are players who played for us who went, I'll never play for that guy again. And there are others who would say, my God, best coach I've had in ever. It doesn't matter what role we play. We have burnt bridges. I've burnt certainly my share, including the two organizations out here. But Ontario, the OMHA and the OHF is a completely closed shop. They don't want to deal with anybody except their own favorites. Okay, fine. I'll go off and do my own thing. The hell with you. When you put this on YouTube, please leave that out. But I feel I have something to offer. People can disagree with the content, fine, or the approach, that's fine too. But all of us have something really valuable to offer. We should be offering it. I plan to write a letter to, well, you guys know Cassie Campbell, of course. I don't, but Hugh Fraser, who's the current chair. Hugh Fraser was the current chair of Hockey Canada for a year. And I know Hugh from Ottawa. I coached his kids, and his ex-wife was my kid's teacher and so on. So I've known Hugh for 30 years. I plan to write a little note and say, I hope that when the new board comes in and you have advice for the new board, that they're going to put in some people on that board with a development vision. And I'm going to throw some names out at them. Yours will be among them. I said, the following people have been at the apex of development, including Dave King and Dean Holden and all these people for years. Why are they not right in there developing the program to educate our coaches?
Well, Tom had Cassie coach with him. I coached her, and I thought, oh boy, here's a chance, knowing her, to make influence things. And I've actually told her, Cassie, the most important thing that I would want done is the mission statement exercise. I just love to do it with you. But I don't know that it would be understood and valued to the degree where, okay, they're going to move forward with this, because they can't mandate those things.
Well, maybe
they're bored.
USA Hockey has been mandating a whack of stuff, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I think the way it's structured, in terms of branches and votes and selection and the isolation of every branch, there really is no pure trust and respectful communication.
Correct.
Going on between all parties.
Absolutely correct.
That's no criticism of them. It's just the reality of people caught up in their own worlds and their own departments doing things their own way, which are very good. But are they sharks? Are they keeping learning? Are they keeping swimming?
Well, You look at the names that I had in my presentation and the names that we throw around. There is not one Hockey Canada person that has been quoted or seen on YouTube or done a presentation where you go, wow, that's fantastic stuff. They're all either a European or American.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Well, you know,
It's scary.
I have to comment. I went to Sammy Joe Small talked about a goaltender school, Hockey Canada sponsored. I went to it. The following week, they had skills coaches from across Canada, Hockey Canada certified, come in.
Yep, $1,500 a piece.
Yeah. And Corey McNabb and Dean Seymour ran an ice time that was the best I'd ever seen in terms of advanced tactical purpose of skills for defensemen along the blue line with a puck offensively and what they were doing. It blew me away. So they're doing great things. It's just a matter of just getting everyone to appreciate whatever is great and taking it on to another level. But anyway, I'm not sure what else to say or do, but
Well, I'm going to comment there, Wally, if I can jump in.
yeah.
Like a lot of what Hockey Canada is, and you and I have had this discussion before, a lot of what their focus is on high performance. It's
Right.
not on where the high performance athletes come from.
Right.
That
100%.
has been more than magnified in the last couple of years with all of the nonsense that's gone on relative to Hockey Canada. But everything that's involved in all of those scandalous discussions has to do with high performance. I haven't seen much, if any, comment relative to the grassroots, to the minor hockey side of things. That's where I think
That's one of the reasons I
Hockey
do my
Canada.
web.
Sorry, Tom?
It's one of the reasons I started my website. There was really nothing for the guy coaching kids hockey,
Correct.
Agreed.
you know. And they didn't like it at all, I'll tell you that. Like we did our book, and there was this perfect practice book from a guy in Saskatchewan, and the Czech something else about Czech hockey, and the guy in charge of Hockey Canada, you know, at that time said, well, I'm not going to support your book because I believe it's in competition with our Nike program. And that, you know, so that's the feedback I got from them.
If it's their idea, it's a good idea. If it's anyone else's, they don't really want to have much to do with it. But if you hang in there long enough, it may show up in a year or two under their name, slightly disguised.
Yeah, well, you know, like we talked to the big shots 25 years ago, Johanni and I, and they listened to him because he was from Finland. We were at Father Bauer, you know, and that's where their office was. And they kind of politely listened, but you could tell that they're glazed over. They weren't listening to anything. And they really didn't give him the time of day. And he's probably the most brilliant hockey guy I've ever talked to in my life. And, you know, because like you said, it wasn't their idea. So, and it was about games. And the US came out with all their game stuff, you know, later. But, you know, they didn't listen one iota to it. So.
See, Richard, that I believe what Tom was talking about, the best teaching progression of drills. This gets away from the seep. Done by Johanni on the ice with Tom at Father Bauer. I watched the best sequence I've ever seen for teaching puck hockey sense, passing and pass timing ever. To this day, I'm saying every team needs to do this sequence to teach support and timing that will translate into game situations. It's absolutely priceless. And he was there back in the day. I saw it. And I think I called Tom over and I just shook my head and said, oh my God, Did I pop into the rink at the right time or what? But that's sort of one of the things with girls hockey Calgary is going to be a cardinal sequence for coaches to play with. But what I'm discovering is they may not want to because they have their own ideas. So I'll worry more about the mission statement exercise because it'll bring the parents together and the board together, supporting the coaches to do what they can do. I think a coach has to go through that and come to you for, can you help me with this? We're not completing passes. And Tom did something so simple as count passes last year. He didn't do that drill sequence, I suggest, but he just tracked pass completion. And the passing was like off the chart. So by letting them play games and keeping track of the number of completed passes in a conscious way, that was enough.
Yeah, that's one of the elements of in the elements of doing a game-like approach is, charting, checks or passes or shots or whatever. But I mean, if from the macro level, the leaders of the game in this country have dropped the puck.
We'll go with puck.
Yeah, we'll go with puck. They just, there's no leadership. I mean, I've worked in 3 branches. Quebec, which was at the top for years and years and years, and still is very, very progressive. HEO, but I was the top dog in HEO, so I made sure that we had progressive approaches and extra clinics for coaches and whatnot. And we created our own high performance before the new one came in. And then OMHA and OHF, which is just a vacuum. There's just nothing going on, nothing, zero, no air, zero. It's shocking. So
even the simple concept, like I learned about the 4 game playing rules from Johanny, because that's how the whole Finnish, everything's organized there. So everything I do is based on the 4 game playing rules. And, like it's really surprising that Hockey Canada hasn't taken that, because it basically is so logical.
well, sure it is. It makes sense. But
yeah,
that's why I'm saying they need to have people in that office with some vision, as opposed to hiring people with a recreation specialist and you're going to stay there for a few years and, you're going to make your salary, but you have to toe the party line. Well, I really fear for the future of the game in this country because it's becoming very expensive with all the development instructors and, $250 an hour to teach skating. But the other thing we're seeing is an awful lot of outlaw leagues. There's a lot of them out here.
that's
where
here too.
Are out there. They're getting their insurance from the AAU in the US or from somewhere else. And they're splitting off and having full ice for 6-year-olds and doing all the stuff that has been traditional 50 years ago that we know is not appropriate now. And parents are running off to, there's a guy, former NHLer out here, Chris Versteeg. I don't know if you remember that name from the NHL. He retired a few years
Played
ago.
in Calgary his last few
Played
years.
in Calgary.
Right, yeah. So he lives out my way, lives a few blocks from me out here in Whitby. He started an outlaw league for 6 to 10-year-olds. Why? Because his kid is in that age group. They're playing full ice somewhere, and he's got a few dozen kids involved in the programming who are not playing in the normal organizations. And that has now really grown a lot. People are driving 45 minutes to an hour through Toronto traffic to get to an outlaw league for the kid to play in, some ex-pros vision. And it's getting
more
smaller.
like the American model. That's what they do, right? I helped a guy in LA pick a AAA midget team, and there was kids there from all over the United States.
Yeah, and they fly them in, yeah. Like the GTHL with the ownership and the sponsorship and people owning, multiple teams. Like Zach Hyman's dad, Stuart, very wealthy guy, owns the junior A team out here in Markham, which is not too far from me. And if your name is not Hyman, you can't be involved with the team. Assistant coach is Hyman. The owner is Hyman. The development instructor is a young Hyman. You know, he owned GTHL teams, so his boy Zach could play. Where is Zach ending up? The NHL, making a few million. You know, it's crazy. So anyway,
Well, he's leveraging the name.
that's right. That's it.
Well, you know what drives me crazy is these NHLers now, they get mad and they're breaking their sticks. So that's what the kids are watching.
Right.
And the parents just, came up with $200, $300 to buy this bloody stick, and they, who do they imitate?
Yeah, I'm not proud to say that the $50 stick I bought 2 years ago in the Old Timers League I play in here, I still use.
Yeah.
Which tells you something about my shot. But so anyway, Wally, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm gonna badger you to get Bill Beanie on down the road, and hopefully WestJet doesn't go on strike. But keep me in the loop when you're going to go to watch the Wranglers practice, the AHL team.
Yeah, I think they have an optional one at the Dome today, and then they're going to play 2 home games. Then they're going to go to whoever they're playing, and they'll be in the road, because they're doing 2 at home, then 3 on the road.
Same as before,
3
yeah.
and 5 series. Was it?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to be able to watch such impressive tactical practices, purposeful practices at that level. But we want to keep helping the minor hockey programs and hopefully make an impact and be a bigger part of making a difference. So
We scared everybody off though on the call.
okay. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, you guys.
Take care.
Tom,
Thank you again, Richard.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thanks.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.